Hey Crosscar fans! So in the past we have had Crosscar mode, Buggy mode, Safari mode, Monster mode, Mud mode, and this is the Overland mode! Now in Overland mode we have added a roof rack. Now in the roof rack we can have food, sleeping bags. You can go camping with your family and have this in it. And you can put a wheel in it. And you can put a fuel in it. Like, fuel bag. And there's a bunch more stuff that you can put in it. So it's really fun mode and I love the roof rack.
So the idea behind Overland mode was the Hatfield-McCoy Trail. If you're not familiar with it, definitely give a Google search for it. It is basically you in the wilderness and a trail for miles and miles and miles. And I would love to be able to build 3 of these, take my family and just camp out and drive cross carts all over. How fun would that be, right? Get our tents in there, get our sleeping bags, get plenty of fuel, plenty of food, a cooler, tools, spares if we need them. Basically everything you need to just get out and have an excursion and the time of your life doing it. So that's what all the cosmetic stuff, the utility, the accessories, that's the things I've been doing. This is the number 14. This is Dunan's cart. So she hopefully will just be able to drive this on the Hatfield-McCoy Trail or any trail however she wants, not get stuck, have recovery, have spare parts, just be able to adventure, right? Which is what we all want. Yeah. So this episode is how to build the roof rack. Now, everything here is in the plans. The frame, the rear A-arms, the Nerf bars, the jig to build the frame on, obviously, and now included will be this roof rack, right? And I'll put the roof rack in the VF1 or VF2. The size of it is completely customizable. You can make it as wide as you want, and to be honest, if I could go back and rebuild it, I would build it about 4 inches wider. That's 2 inches on each side, and it would give a little more room. It would make it look a little better, but I've already done all the welding, so
it's still awesome the way it is though.
Like, oh, thanks. Yeah, it looks good. It's super functional already, and I'm trying to figure out how to put the floor in. So aluminum, chicken wire. Dave had the idea of using teak wood or pine and staining it like an old-fashioned VW Beetle with that styling, and we'll figure it out soon and we'll let you know what we come up with, obviously. So enjoy the episode and let's get started on building an awesome roof rack for your VF1. All right, so it's time to make the roof rack. It's gonna look something like that or like this. Same layout as the other plan, super easy to build. I made it in a bunch of pieces so that you can customize it. You can customize the length of it, you can customize the width of it. So pretty slick. Let's get this tube cut up and start assembling it. Now, I'm not gonna cut the last 6 pieces on the list, and I'll show you why later. Okay, so that's 490 degrees bent. Now, I will give you some hot tips. Number 1, look at this rogue fab, man. That was no time at all. And I have 4 absolutely symmetrical, absolutely perfect bends, man. I can't say enough about Rogue Fab. Fantastic company, fantastic tools. Now, we'll give you a hot tip on bending. Now, we're bending past 90 degrees, and once your digital gauge goes past 90, it starts counting backwards from 90, all right? So for your spring angle, it's obviously going to be above 90 degrees. So I had a 96.2. So all you do in that situation is you subtract the remainder from 90, right? So I ended up 90 minus 6.2 is 83.8. So I bent it till the gauge said 83.8. Make sure you think about that beforehand, and definitely use your bend sheet to take your notes. I bent all these for at the same time because once I get the spring angle, it was just sticking it in, bending it to that spring angle, and getting perfect results every time. Let's get the rest of this bent up. Now R19 and R20 will need a scribe line because they have a notch in them. The other bends do not. Now just use your handy dandy bending block, set it to 180 degrees for your outside bend. Gosh, everything RogueFab does makes everything so much easier. Like, this is really enjoyable so far. So far. Let's hope it stays that way. Alright, so when cutting two notches that are on the same plane, or something flat, or a cross member that's not hooked up to angles, you, after you make your first cut, can double check your second cut by taking a piece of the material that it's going to mount to and aligning it perpendicular so that when you assemble it, you know they're perfect. So for these big notches, I think I'm going to let the hole saw sit this one out and just do this with a cutoff wheel. Now, you can do all of your notches by hand. Just when they're simpler, it's quicker to use a hole saw, but then again, that didn't take long at all. Sweet. So let's start assembly. I cut 13 of these. These are just the sleeves that go in to hold everything together. So first things first, position everything where it's going to go. We're going to work on the front lower part first. And actually what I'm going to do, I think, is I'm going to tack my sleeves into place. I'm just using that to line it up, and I'm just going to put a tack on one side of that. Now the whole goal of that was just to get this ready for assembly. You're going to want a little bit of spacing between so you can connect all of them. Now it's up to you if you want to do a full rosette weld. Since this isn't weight bearing, it's not structural, I'm just going to weld the seam, get them all together. And now I'm just going to use a square . See this split right here? You'd lengthen that, and then whatever insert you put here, lengthen all of your cross members by the same amount, and it will come out exactly the width you want. Yeah. So now we get to look at it on the cart. So I guess first step's to remove the roof. Now I'm going to affix some roll bar mounts. Now these are great. I just bought 12 of them for 40 bucks, something like that. And they're great for lights. They're great for pretty much anything you want to put on here. These are all mounted with them. The stereo I put on this one is mounted with that. So they are very, very handy. And since they have rubber inserts, they have a natural vibration resistance. All right, so once you've got your brackets kind of pre-positioned where you want them, I'm doing one back here and one up here. We're gonna make tabs to actually connect it. So now it's time for alignment. And I just use my good friend, the wood. It's a great second set of hands. I'll just lay this on top of here. And I'll try to center it as I go. Now my first goal is to level this assembly. Now this is where you decide where you want it. It's made to come off the front, just like most roof racks. It'll help give you some sun protection. And if you mount lights on the front of this, it'll give you better or less reflection, blah, blah, blah. It's just how I made it. So I'm gonna double check everything. I'm gonna use all my tools. I'm gonna use my level to match my mounts up. Those mounts are gonna point at the roof rack in a certain orientation. If you match that up, it'll help give you symmetry or proper placement side to side. And you definitely don't want it cocked at all. Another tool is your ruler. You can measure where your mounts are. If you square your mounts, then your roof rack will obviously be square. And definitely don't discount a good eyeball. You guys know this. If it looks good, then that's what people are looking at. They're not going to measure it, they're going to look at it. I'm pretty happy with this, so I am going to clamp it in place. This was designed to be the primary setup for alignment. That's why we haven't assembled the whole thing yet to put it on. All right, I've got 3 sides locked in. Now we can start assembling the rear part. We'll grab a couple sleeves. Now I use a 1-inch tube and I cut them to about 3 inches of length. It doesn't matter. I just found some straps lying around and cut it up. Now the good part about using this is that it gives us some wiggle room. It doesn't fit perfectly. Now this is not structural, so I don't need it to fit too tightly. I just need it to align everything while I weld it. But that's also the bad part of this, is that it's wiggly, right? So what we can do to get these lined up while they're on the machine is a little different. Check this out. So the down drop pieces, they are very, very similar. I don't think it matters which way they go, but you do want them to match or else it'll come out crooked. They're about a 1/4 inch difference length to length. So I just marked an S where I started the bend, makes them nice and symmetric. So check this out. Now I'm just gonna tack the one side, and I've got a piece of angle iron here. Angle iron is straight by nature. So all we do is leave our gap that we want, and we can put a nice big gap in there so that we can weld the sleeve just to the forward part. Now it just kind of worked out having this wing here, and I can just lay my boards there for my separation that I want, and it works out really great. Get a sleeve in there. Now the start sides of these I determined was the shortest side, so that's how I'm going to route that. Now you can remove all your fixtures, and you can get some better, stronger tacks in there. All right, we've got some healthy welds in there. This thing is pretty solid. So now we're gonna work on mounting it. So now I'm just gonna get some 1-inch, because that's how big these brackets are, but it's 3/16 thick. If I had a 1/4, I'd probably use it, but this is the thickest stuff I have. That's pretty stout. I mean, 4 of those, locking it in place should do pretty well. All right, so I just made up some simple brackets, some bolt in. I'll just put that on, tighten it. I'm gonna get all 4 of these done before I weld anything, just to check alignment. Alignment is everything. All right, so I made my tabs to fit it. The front ones are longer than the back ones. And everything's lined up tight. I did tighten these brackets so that it holds in place, and I still have my clamps on. We can take the clamps off after we get these welded. So let's do that. Now we can weld in the last two cross members for the lower half of the roof rack. I'll just align this with the main roll bar. It'll be square to the cart. Now with your tabs welded in place, you can finally get rid of these clamps. Nice. That's a pretty sturdy rack. I like it. Now the top is pretty self-explanatory. I think I'm just gonna build it right on top. I'm gonna build it right on top of this. That way it's square, it's flat, it matches, it'll look good. Yeah, I'd say that'll work just fine. All right, so here's the neat trick with the cut wrappers and cutting short pieces. I've scored my entire tube, and for this we're gonna use the top number. Usually we use that to verify the cut wrappers are the correct distance apart on the tube as a double check. But for this one, we're just gonna take this, line it up to our alignment mark so we can cut off the end. Now we're gonna take the end part, and you see it's 3/4 distance to second. So we'll measure 3/4 and make a mark, right? That's the distance between the cut wrappers. And now we're going to make 2 cuts, but make 3 notches because we're going to cut all the way through, which will line us up for the next one. And having all of this meat in the notcher is going to make your notches easier and more accurate. Now, obviously, this is height adjustable by however much you want to do these offsets. I have it, see, there's an 1¼ inch tubing on either side. So it's right around 5¼ inches deep. Just round number I came up with. We'll see how it turns out. So let's go over the notcher. All right, these are all 90-degree cuts. So put the first one in. Line it up, and like I said, we're just gonna nip the end off. So now we just move to our second one. Do our little trick, make sure it's aligned correctly. And you want to measure it, that's going to be the thickness of it. So it looks like 2 7/8 thick. So we'll remember that for the following ones. Okay, so now we can pull this out of here, make another cut wrapper, or we could just do it manually with our 2 7/8 measurement. As long as we make these all the same, 2 7/8 apart, they're all going to match. Without having to take cut wrappers, this is going to take not long at all. Now, remember all these that we made? Time to use them. We're almost done with this. So that's it. It's a lot stronger than I thought, but it was also just a little harder to put together than I thought. I knew it was going to be challenging lining up all of these parts, but I think it came out great. Now, for the guys that are like, oh, why do you want a roof rack? It's a race car. Well, it's a race car, but it's also a trail machine. It's a VF. So it has modes, right? So this is another chapter in trail mode, right? So if you're wondering what kind of stuff you can use a roof rack for, check this out. How about mounting a full-size spare and out of the way, right? How about taking some extra gas with you? How about taking a jack with you? I know, it's a little silly, but I mean, it's a roof rack. You can put stuff in it. You can put whatever you want in it. When I was designing it, I thought it would look okay. To just have the spare up there, but you can see it's a little silly. I've also toyed with mounting a spare on the nose, you know, British style, but the wheels are too thick and it blocks your vision too much, no matter how far you drop it down. It's all cool. I mean, you could mount some spares there. Mount your spares. I mean, there's just tons of options, right? So the Nerf bars and the roof rack just add tons of options for accessories.
You know how girls love their accessories.
I love accessories. I think all that stuff's cool. So for the guys wanting an update on the two-seater, I haven't forgotten about it, and it's actually very close to getting done. Just a few more days in the garage before a test drive. But I've been starting projects and not finishing them, and that annoys me. So I think I have 2 more days in the garage before I get back on the two-seater. I have brake upgrades for the number 5. 2 different brake upgrades, 2 different stages, if you will. So I'm going to shoot that video in the next coming days. And then also I'm going to make the XL a roller. It is taking up space in my garage. I can't stand it, and I don't have any good footage of its size and dimensions. So I'm going to get a nicer, bigger seat. It doesn't have to be a race car seat. It can recline, just because of the nature of it, right? For me, it's going to be, you know, hopefully a 4-wheel drive, ultimate trail machine, drift machine, whatever. But I've got to get it mobile. So I'm going to make that a roller. That should take a day. I already have the A-arms cut and built. It's just a matter of attaching things and getting it going. So, and then that 3rd day, back on the two-seater. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thanks for the views, thanks for the likes, thanks for everything. You guys are awesome, and I literally couldn't do this without you. I couldn't do all of this without you. And I do all of it for you. So I hope you love it. Love all your builds. Keep it up. You guys are awesome. For you guys just tuning in, you guys can do this. You can do all of this, right? Just take a look. So many people are doing it. Anyway, I'll see you on the next one. Enjoy the build.